and I could feel her like kicking and turning her body around, which was pretty amazing. And then she came out and I pulled her up. It was just instantly amazing, and everything was so proud of myself that like I did it.
I had my children on the floor. I was on my favourite blanket that my grandmother gave me on the floor like a cat.
And I realised in that moment the potential of what our bodies can really do as women.
Like I could feel his head, I could do my own internal, like, yeah, his head, I could feel it.
I was in tears, I was just in tears and overwhelmed with gratitude.
Hi and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast, the podcast that is bringing embodied birth wisdom from women from all over the world sharing their natural birth stories. Don't forget to subscribe and download so that you can always have access to these empowering and positive natural birth stories. Hi Kiata and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Anna.
So beautiful to have you here from Tasmania, Australia. I've actually never visited Tasmania. I've lived in Australia, as you might know, for many years, but I never ever visited Tasmania. I hear it's very beautiful and cold.
Well, we're in summer at the moment, so it's actually quite warm. But yes, it does get very cold in winter. We definitely get all four seasons. But I love that about it down here, and it's pretty wild and remote, which is, lots of beautiful nature and, lots of wild beaches, which, is perfect for us.
Love that. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard many people say that. Maybe one day I'll visit. And so today we are going to dive on into your home birth story. But before we do you want to take us back to when you were trying to conceive your baby, if that was something you were doing or if it was a whoopsie daisy, and if you knew already from the get-go that you were going to have a home birth?
Yeah, so I was actually a home birth. So my mum and dad were, I guess, in the 80s, quite alternative thinking, but they did kind of go to the hospital quite late because they were traveling around Australia. I think my mum was like 30 weeks pregnant, near the end of her pregnancy, and felt like she was being told off by the hospital and how kind of, naughty she was really for coming in so late without doing all the things. And she just said, oh, I don't want to be here. And so was lucky enough to find a midwife at quite late notice back in the 80s, and she was able to give birth to me and then my sister a couple of years later at home. So which I think was quite unusual for those times as well in Australia. So, and also when I was a teenager, I actually attended a family friend's for the beginning, kind of earlier home birth, to help out with their toddler. So it didn't really seem that, seemed quite normal at the time. But now that I look back on it, I kind of realize that wasn't necessarily a very normal experience for the average person. But I think then growing up in my 20s, a lot of my friends and different people around me were just going through the hospital system, and I wasn't thinking too much about it because I wasn't ready for having a baby. So I think funnily, it just kind of seemed like when it came to thinking about birth for me prior to conceiving, I was like, oh yeah, the hospital. And then a friend talked about home birth. And I was like, oh, of course, yeah. I don't know, just maybe it wasn't as forefront in my mind. And so then knowing that my partner and I were wanting to conceive, I just kind of looked into some of the options prior just to start to get my head thinking of what I wanted. And as soon as I kind of started that process, I was like, oh yes, home birth is what I want. So then I guess we were kind of putting off our little baby because the timing wasn't quite right. But it was, yeah, I could kind of feel her, well, them, we know now we have a little girl, but I could feel their, I guess, like little um, spirit kind of around me. And they were really wanting to, I saw, see an amazing holistic healer who's intuitive, and she kind of talked that they were really keen to come and, yeah, be with us. And, yeah, just to talk around like, we're not quite ready yet, which was, yeah, pretty special to know that. And then, yeah, when we were ready, they we were really lucky in that it was super quick. I think it was maybe like had my period once, and then the next time I was pregnant. So yeah, and
Amazing.
that was yeah, that was
Amazing.
interesting because I had before probably a week after ovulation, I I just felt my breasts instantly feel tender and heavy and change. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm pregnant, but I think I might be. Yeah.
Beautiful. How lovely. It's always so interesting to hear how different women and families conceive their babies. Um, and for some, it's such a long wait, and for some, it's just it happens very quickly. And I think the variety is important to hear all the different versions of how babies come. So it sounds like you knew from even before conceiving your daughter that there would be a home birth for you. Were you living in Tasmania then, and did you already know a midwife, or did you go on a hunt as you became pregnant?
So when I was looking into initially like whether like the different options for birth, it was prior to falling pregnant. And there's not many options in Tasmania. There's a couple more in the north of Tasmania, but we're near Hobart in the south. So there's really there's a couple of practicing private midwives, and otherwise just through the hospital programs where they have like a midwife group, but you're still birthing in the hospital. They don't have like a birth center option. So there was kind of no in between. But I think I was feeling like I really wanted to at home anyway. Yeah, so I found out, I think there was three at the time, private midwives in practicing out of like Hobart. Um, so I'd kind of had their contacts ready and I wasn't sure exactly um, which one, but I was like, oh, well, I'll just wait now until the time comes. But yeah, within a week of kind of finding out um, that I was pregnant, I contacted very quickly because I know that because there is so little, I knew that they'd fill up very quickly. Yeah, and had been talking to my partner, and he was a little bit more unsure because he hadn't really been, I guess, he hadn't really known anyone who'd home birthed, and was just feeling like, oh, I'm not sure. But once I kind of went through his like worries with him, um, he felt, and all the different statistics and risks, and he felt much more at ease. And then when we met our beautiful midwife, he was like, yeah, like felt really good and super comfortable. So yeah, that's then we were kind of, I guess, locked in with yeah our beautiful midwife, and started the process where she would come to our home and we'd had all our appointments at home, and tried to make sure that my partner was there as well, and yeah, got to know each other and learn as we went, which was so just felt so good not to have to go into hospital and wait. We just have a cup of tea and chat, and yeah, it was really special.
Beautiful. So, is there something from the pregnancy that you would like to share, or should we dive on into your birth story now?
I think The pregnancy, yeah, had some nausea in the first trimester, but overall felt like pretty pretty good. I just had to keep the snacks up. And yeah, then usually and resting obviously. But otherwise that would keep it mostly at bay. So I felt pretty grateful that I had that experience. And yeah, the pregnancy overall was yeah, really great and I loved being pregnant. Obviously there were some bits that were not fun, but overall um yeah, it was really good. And yeah, interestingly, I had the placenta at the front, and so there wasn't heaps of movement that I know. Like there was movement, but not as much as other people have talked about. And yeah, just speaking with my midwife, she said that can often be the case when the placenta is at the front. Yeah, and um, my daughter was, yeah, head down for quite a long time prior to actually giving birth. And she, which is kind of at the end, but she had quite a short cord, umbilical cord. So I wonder whether that was also restricting her movement as well. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but
Mhm.
I did wonder. Um, yeah, and I think so I had the only other thing that was something that I guess took up some of my thinking space and decision making was we had the 13-week scan and then moving closer I did a bit of reading and also while the 13-week scan was happening I really noticed that um our baby was like moving away from um, the scan, I don't know what the instrument's called, but she was moving away from it and hi almost like hiding and pulling her body in. And look, it just didn't really seem like she liked it. Um, and yeah, some of the reading I did didn't necessarily mean that there was harm, but it just seemed like maybe it's not something that they enjoy and it's not enjoyable for them in there or maybe a bit stressful. So, um, with not really any worries or risks happening for me, yeah, decided not to have so in Australia, they really kind of recommend the 20-week scan. And so I didn't have it, and it was quite interesting. Like I sometimes just chose not to tell people because I really felt like I had to explain myself afterwards, and that people would be quite surprised or maybe concerned. Um, yeah, so that was
Yeah.
something that.
I really love that you share that because this is something that do come up in the Natural Birth podcast and amongst women who choose maybe more a natural route. They do a lot of research and when it comes to ultrasound, it's just taken as it's safe. And as you say, yes, it's recommended to have the 12-week or you had it at 13, so like between 11 and 13-ish, you usually have the first ultrasound and then the 20-week kind of anatomy scan or whatever you want to call it. There's different terms for it in different countries. But and the truth is you can opt out of both. You don't have to
Mm,
have them. It's very important to actually really understand this because it's taken as both the CTG and the ultrasound is kind of in, the medicalized world and also in just our society and maternity care. It's just taken as it's safe and almost like it's diagnostic, which is both false. They're not inherently safe. It is ultrasound waves. And yes, it affects the baby, as you noticed for that first ultrasound. And there hasn't been actual real studies on it because you can't really study pregnant women and babies or unborn babies like in that sense it's unethical and all these things, right? So what we do have, it doesn't show we can't say for certain that it doesn't actually affect the babies, right? And it's just taken by, well, we've done it for so long now and look, they're all fine. But it's like, well, are they? When we don't have the actual real controlled studies, are they? Like, we can't say that for certain. And I just want to put that out there. I'm not saying not to do ultrasounds, but it also like it's okay to opt out of them, actually. And another point is also that it's taken as, the people were concerned that you didn't do the 20-week one because the 20-week one is supposed to check all the organs and just do all this mapping. The thing is, it's not diagnostic. You will not know if that ultrasound was correct until the baby's born, anyways. And what would you do with that information? I mean, I've had so many clients that on that ultrasound, it's telling them that baby has a problem with the kidneys or with the heart or this, and that. And they go on and they get super nervous and stressed. And oh, we have to keep a track on this. And they do lots of ultrasounds. And then the baby comes out. It was never a problem from the beginning. And then you have the opposite where the ultrasound says the baby's fine and the baby comes out and has a problem. So it's a very voodoo science that is taken as this kind of high-tech, evidence-based, perfectly safe. Everyone should do it. It's a responsible thing to do it. And it's like, well, you have options. You can decline it. Do your research, feel into it. Your mama wisdom knows. Again, I'm not against ultrasounds, but I want us to have an honest conversation about it. And I feel like that's not really happening,
Mm.
actually. And it's just taken as a diagnostic miracle to be able to scan your tummy and know everything. And it's not true. It's not true.
And that's what I really kind of felt was, I think if there were risk factors or things that I was particularly concerned about, like I would definitely be open to it. And I'm not against ultrasounds, but I do feel like it's overused more as like a just something that you do, a tick box, rather than let's look at the woman, let's look at the pregnancy and go off, what's happening there. And I definitely kind of, from what I understood, it was around often women come out with more, they go in to maybe alleviate their concerns, and often, not always, but they often come out feeling more worried, and potentially that's then creating stress for yourself and your baby for the rest of your pregnancy. I just felt really great in the pregnancy, and yeah, intuitively just felt like, no, I don't need that. Yeah, so I really was really happy with that decision. Um, yeah, in the end, it took me a while to come to that, but I also really felt throughout that pregnancy a really beautiful sense of that I had time to make all my decisions, and there was no rush, and that our midwife would kind of give us the information as we would go, and avenues where we could look things up and make decisions, and it was never felt urgent or like, yeah, it just felt like everything could kind of flow and unfold as time went along, which felt really nice. I never felt like, um, panicked. It was just like, okay, like this is the next decision to make or the next thing to think about. And I'll take my time to do that, which is, yeah, felt really good. And listening to things like your podcast, Anna, and other podcasts was so helpful to be able to kind of learn off other women and other, yeah, people in that area that could share their wisdom. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So let's dive on into your birth story. Did you have any early signs of labor approaching for you, or did it start with a bang?
I did have, I guess, probably the couple of weeks leading up. I had like Braxton Hicksy kind of feels, but it was more like in the evening, my tummy would just go like rock hard for a couple of hours, even sometimes. And I was just like, oh, I don't really know. Is this definitely probably did too much Googling. And also like a lot of listening to podcasts, trying to hear what other women's experiences were, because I feel like that was the biggest unknown for me was how does it start? And the more stories I listened to, the more I learned that it's just so different for every person. So then kind of second guessing every different thing that was I was feeling, but also trying to be at ease with it. So feeling these in the evenings, the tightness, and kind of going, okay, well, I'm just going to go to bed and go to sleep. And if I wake up and I'm in labor, I am in labor. And if not, I'm not. Um, and yeah, a couple of days before well, maybe it was on my like estimated kind of due date. I actually pulled like a tarot card, and because I felt like I'm ready for this baby to come. The card I pulled was postponement, and it talked about like procrastinating and putting things off. And I kind of, a bit like indignant, went to myself like, no, like I'm ready. I want this like baby to come. And then I kind of paused and asked myself the question, like, if I was to start labor right now and like it was to begin, like, am I ready? And there was a little part of me that went like, oh, maybe tomorrow. So that was really interesting. Um, yeah, so I kind of felt into that, and then did a few things, like wrote out some kind of mantras or like things that I've been meaning to do, like you and your baby work together, or on some cards that I had, and just, I guess, turn inwards and really, I guess, felt that I was ready. Um,
That's
yeah, so I woke up at a couple of days after my due date at in the early hours of the morning, like 2-ish in the morning. And it was the middle of winter in Tassie, so we had like the fire going, and I just woke up and went into the lounge room, and because I was definitely awake, and the baby was moving a lot, like a lot more than they normally would be. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, and kind of just sat by the fire and lit some candles and just relaxed because I felt really awake. And then was like, I'm not sure. Went back to bed around like 5:30 in the morning because I was like, I think I can sleep now. And then when I woke up a few hours later, I woke up with like an ache in my back, which I'd never really, like, my back wasn't feeling sore or anything like that. So that was like a new sensation. And I was like, this is different. But maybe not, because I was kind of second guessing. But then I had like a loose stool. And so I was like, okay, there's another interesting sign.
little
Um,
signs for sure, little signs of early labor.
yeah. And so I did have my sister lives in Melbourne, and I was wanting her to be able to come be there for the birth, which is about an hour flight. But I was obviously like, she might be there, she might not, and kind of open to that. So I went for a walk that morning and just called her and said, like, look, it could be another week, 2 weeks, but this is happening, and I do really feel like it is something. But obviously, I don't know. And she was like, well, I've got the next few days off. I'll just come down, and if not, I can just come back, and it's fine. And I was like, okay, but like, don't, no like, I didn't want to put pressure on myself for that expectation. So I just was very like open around that. Um, yeah, and then just text with my midwife, because she lives about an hour away from where my home was. So just wanting to give her like a little bit of warning that there was movement. And yeah, she was just like, oh, sounds great. Just keep me updated, maybe have a sleep and have some rest, and that kind of thing. Um, which I did. And my partner had gone to work. And so kind of just was keeping him up to date as well, because we still, weren't sure. But then in the afternoon, yeah, around 2 in the afternoon, I started to feel like tummy cramp. And for me, it felt kind of like a period cramp. But then it was going away and coming back. And I was like, okay, this feels like it's something. Um, but it was very subtle still, but definitely noticeable that it was um, stopping and starting. And yeah. Um, so same, just text my midwife and gave my partner a call. And he's like, yep, I'll pack everything up and I'll be home soon. Yeah. And so he got home an hour or two later, and it had just been very like similar, like mild. But after he got home, it very quickly moved to like a lot more like Well, so I had a TENS machine and so just decided to put that on just to see how it felt. And it was one that actually tracked if when you press the for it to activate, it tracked when your how long your contraction was, surge or contraction was, and then the space in between. Which I hadn't necessarily planned to track, but then because it was there, I was like, okay, and just let my midnight know it was actually like reasonably, I think it was like 3 to 4 minutes apart and going for like between 30 seconds and a minute. And she was like, oh, okay. That's more maybe like being first time. It was moving a bit quicker from what it had been only an hour or two before. And she's like, sounds great though. Just keep me updated. Yeah. And then she, I think it kind of was sitting around the same for an hour or so. And so she decided to come and check. Um, just come and check in on me and Barb, and then her sister lived close by, so she was just going to be able to leave and come back and just be like 5 or 10 minutes away. Um, yeah, so she came and just checked and said everything looks great, and just to keep, yeah, doing what I needed to do and to keep in touch. And she was just around the corner, so that was really nice. That I guess we'd communicated with her before, like. Um, I wanted my mum and my sister there, and obviously my partner, but just said I didn't know what I would want in the moment. And yeah, whether I'd want her there a lot or whether I was happy for her to kind of be more just in the background or coming in and out as needed. So yeah, she was just happy just to kind of leave us. And then my mum and sister got there. So my sister got in that evening and that was really nice. We were kind of had like a kitchen bench top, and so they had some food, but at that stage I was not hungry. um, and so they were kind of eating, and then I was chatting, still chatting in between. But then, soon as like a surge came through, I was definitely not talking, and they were like rotating through, coming and like putting pressure. On like my back kind of hips. And I kind of moved between the bench and then down on leaning against the couch on my knees. Um, yeah, and then at that point, I just talked to my partner around like maybe him having a rest because us not knowing how long it could be and really wanting him to be there, obviously for the the bigger parts. And I
The
was like, oh,
great
this could be on for a while.
finale.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, you've been at work all day, like you go have a rest and like my mum and sister can wake you up when like after you've had a rest kind of thing. Um yeah, so that was really like really nice just having them there. And yeah, I remember I kind of moved into um feeling like I couldn't like I could think and but I couldn't communicate what I was thinking out loud in that space somewhere. And I was surprised actually how busy my mind was. Yeah, just thinking about all the different things, which was interesting. I don't know why. I just thought maybe it would be more just focused on the one thing, but it was bringing in lots of different parts, which was sometimes helpful and sometimes not helpful.
Yeah, the beautiful mind can be both, can't it? And yeah, it's interesting that you say that some women do really feel very alert. And the thing is, you, even though you, because it's when you can't really speak anymore, like you say, you have all these thoughts, but you can't really communicate them, you're starting to have this altered state, right? You're really affected by labor land, you're affected by the hormones, everything, like the whole cocktail. But your mind is still very alert and you're also very perceptive. And you might agree to that, that you could feel your sister, your mom, everything in the space at the same time as being acutely aware of what's going on for you, at the same time, kind of being in this altered state where you might not be able really to communicate.
Mm. And I definitely like that describes it really well. The only bit that went in and out for me a little bit is the further along I went, I was less aware of like who was doing what. And like I knew maybe it's just because I felt really comfortable and safe with who was in the space. So
Yeah.
I didn't really know who was always doing what, but I just, yeah, like it was almost like I knew what was happening, but I didn't know who was doing the things, if that makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
not thing, but like squeezing my back or giving me ice or
Mm.
looking after me. It was like, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think that's very much to do with being so like so trusting, so safe in your own home with the people who love you and the midwife you trust. Then you could totally switch off any kind of fight and flight, any kind of hypervigilance because you didn't need to be aware of
mm,
that. Like
mm,
anyone who touched you would have been someone you trusted and loved, and so that wouldn't click in. Whereas if you were for example, if you're in a hospital and there's strangers coming in and out, and then you would automatically be most of the time more hypervigilant about who's in your space because there's strangers coming in. There's still women who like totally blocks that out and just goes into their own process. But I would say most would be aware more so of their surroundings in that kind of environment as well.
yeah, I think that's very true. And maybe that was like the bits that I was finding more tricky was the sensations that I was feeling and some of the doubt, maybe the stories that would come in. So I was felt safe in the environment, the people around me. It was more the challenge of like trying to navigate my mind.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. Yeah. So I got to a certain point and I was just like, I need to get into the bath. Like I'm ready for that. And so my mum and sister woke up my partner, and he kind of got the pool ready and got the water and was doing that part. But at one point, they were having a little bit of trouble with like the temperature and getting it like, yeah, the system we had was, it took a little bit longer. And actually, yeah, because the gas, we tested it, but it just, anyway, my dad ended up coming down. He was on call and he came and helped my partner with like buckets and things fill up the pool. And they were kind of saying to me, like, did you want to just hop in like our normal, because we had the pool from the midwife that's the big blow up one. And they're saying, did you want to hop in the shower or just hop in the our normal bath? And I was just like, no, because they were a bit smaller and it was going to be hard. And I was like, no, like I'm just going to wait until the big soft pool is ready. Like just get that ready. Um, and there I just remember like once I got into that warm water, just the relief, the feeling of just like, oh, the weightlessness and just the heat and just taking away some of the intensity of the sensations and it just felt so good. So it's like, oh. Um, yeah, and then so my midwife had come back, I think, once or twice in between this time and was just having updates with my mum or sister. And she just checked and then left again. And then, yeah, so in the pool, I remember being on my knees, leaning against the side on the edge. And it was interesting because I remember feeling like my body telling me that it wanted me to move positions. Like intuitively, I had that feeling like I should move, but my mind kind of was putting up a little barrier and it was like, no, like, what if you move positions and like it's too much and like you can handle the sensation, like it's you managing it like this. And so it put up the barrier and like I resisted moving for a while. And then my midwife came a bit after that. And then after a little while, probably I'm guessing of observing me, I just heard a little voice saying, oh, Kiata, like maybe after your next contraction, you might want to try just changing position, see how it feels. And as soon as she said it, I was like, yes, I know. But it was really helpful to kind of have that just to help me move past my like my brain, I guess, essentially.
You're in a resistance, and it's really normal. Like And, it's okay to stay there. It's okay to stay like in the most comfortable position you can get into until you're ready to meet something more intense, right? It's okay to have those, pauses. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not wrong to prolong labor, to stay in a certain position. Like it all is a process. And what you also mentioned about for you, because you were in your safe place at home with safe people, you really noticed that the battle was your mind, which is for all women, right? Sometimes
Mm,
the battle is both where you're at because you chose a place where there's strangers or people you don't trust. But for everyone, it's the battle of the
mm,
mind, right? And
mm,
how to move with these, like the resistance, the fear that comes up, like,
mm,
um, scenarios playing in your head. Some women will have also memories coming up that
mhm,
they need to go through. Labor is fascinating, and you don't know
mm,
who you're going to be and what you're going to have come up for you, but it truly is a process of the mind and of the soul, I feel. And sometimes it's a big clearing. There needs to be tears and purging, and for some it's not. And there's no right and wrong. Everyone has the journey they need, I believe.
mhm. Yeah, and I think that's yeah, you just don't know what to expect, and so it was yeah, definitely it was I think I learned a lot around my mind and some of those things, which I was surprised about and didn't quite realize that that would happen as much as what it did.
Birth is a teacher. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely is. But then, of course, I moved and it was fine. It was actually better. I kind of like was able to squat a bit more and kind of put my leg out to the side, and that movement felt so much better to be able to shift and move as my body, as really I knew that my body wanted to do. I think there was just that fear there of the unknown, and yeah, just not knowing what would happen, and I think the unknown of like how long something this would process would take. There was definitely a part of me that was feeling like I have to leave something in reserve because this could go for days. And I think that was like maybe holding me back in a way because it was, yeah, almost like putting off, like I don't want to fully lean into it because like how long do I have to do this for? And if I fully lean in, like how long can I then like manage that intensity? Um, yeah, like not in the moment, I don't think I was obviously thinking that, but on reflection, I think that was, yeah, something that was really sitting there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is
So,
scary. It is scary to lean in fully into the intensity.
mm,
It is really, really scary. And I think most women will feel that. It will come to that throughout the labor process, different periods, maybe several times, and having to lean in and cross that threshold to make it progress. Because the thing is also, of course, that even though, so it's counterintuitive because holding back just prolongs. So what you resist persists, right? It's the ultimate truth in labor and birth. Um, and it's okay to resist. Like it's okay to have those moments. It's okay to have the human processing, right? And I think, you know, maybe especially first time moms who haven't experienced this yet, we can have an idea of this like perfect birth where we don't have all these doubts or fears or that, and the thing is, like birth is everything and expect everything. And you're not doing it right if you don't have it happen. Like, and maybe the opposite, like expect that it'll come, embrace it. Like it is the wildest ocean you'll be in. Sometimes there'll be a tsunami or several times potentially, and it'll be really scary. And then you'll come through it, and there's the next tsunami that you're meeting, right? So, um, yeah. I really want to burst the bubble of any kind of like perfect birth scenario. Like it's not going to be
mm,
perfect in a sense. It's going to be imperfectly perfect in its great mystery. And yeah.
mm. And so much to learn that I've learned from that as well, from that process. Like that if it's perfect, how can you learn? Like, I mean, yeah, it's just pretty incredible. But I do remember around this time thinking like, I wasn't thinking I need pain relief or anything like that, but I remember thinking I get it. I understand why women who are in the hospital situation and who have the options given to them of different potentially interventions like epidural or pain relief or different things. I was like, I get it. I can see, I don't want that now, but I could see why, like, this is my active brain thinking. I was thinking this at the time. I can see why they do it. And, why when that's there and the pressure's being put on, like, it's because it is so intense. And for me, it was really intense. And there were moments where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And yeah, I think at one moment further on, I said, I just want to transition. And my midwife said, oh, darling, like you have transitioned. And I was like, oh. Like she obviously would have known through, I guess, my body and my
Mhm.
sounds and where I was at. But for me,
Mhm.
I didn't quite realize because I don't know exactly how those sensations feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, at that certain point, I think we're around midnight at this time, and I kind of felt like, oh, I think I need to go to the toilet, and I was like, it's either going to be a baby or a poo. I was like, well, I was like, oh, after this, so after that contraction. They supported me to go to the toilet. And then yeah, I think I like did a wee and a poo, and then my waters broke. I just heard this pop, but there was no water. It was just the sound. Well, not much. Not that I could even notice that there was water. There might have been a little bit, but it was a loud pop that everyone could hear. And then within like seconds, I was like, I'm gonna vomit. So it was a very intense minute where they're kind of handing me the bin and yeah, and so talking with my midwife afterwards, she just kind of said that baby's head was so low down that it would have kind of created like I guess like a block so that there wouldn't have been much water to be able to come through and out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So that sounds perfectly right. And sometimes that happens when there's a big shift in your body, then your body will want to vomit. Like that is just the reaction that can happen. Probably in that your baby's head was low, but that pop also shifted things quickly in internally. And your baby probably hit even further down in the birth
Mm.
canal. And that kind of little shock to the body made you want to
Mm.
vomit. Mm.
Yeah, and I guess like that the moving from the birth pool to the standing up to the toilet, I'm guessing would have shifted her down further as well.
Mm.
But then after that and in the hallway, I was just like, get me back to the pool because the intensity then was a lot.
Yeah.
And my midwife then rang the second midwife because obviously the baby was pretty close if her head was, yeah, sitting right there. So we got back in the pool. Um, it was still a while actually because that was midnight and she came at like 1:40. So it was about an hour and 40 minutes. And I think so came back to the pool and I have no idea like timeline wise, but I just remember within that time, it felt like a long time of her head um, going, I could feel her kind of going in and out, but not all the way out, obviously, but just that kind of crowning, would you call, is that what you call, or
Well, crowning is when the head doesn't move. So it was
okay.
turtling, it's called turtling because it's coming
Yeah.
down and then going back up and it's stretching that perineum and stretching the whole vaginal canal and just helping you not to tear. So it's really good. We want that. And then
Hmm.
crowning is when it actually, when the baby's head stops moving. It kind of is sitting there at the greatest diameter, kind of, and the next one, usually
Mm.
the whole head comes out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I felt definitely that like turtling feeling felt like it went on forever.
Yeah.
And I same thing with the mental kind of piece where I was kind of there saying like, I know this is a good thing. She's like stretching me. I know this is good. And then the other part of me is just like, oh my gosh, like I just wish she would come out. Um, like, because it was just, yeah. And I think I remember at one point, my midwife had said, oh, if you wanted to, you could pop your hand down and touch her head. Because like during the contraction when she was kind of turtling. And I put my hand there, and then like she went up before I could touch her head, and I was like, she's gone back in. So I was just so ready, but also trying to be patient and wanting my body to stretch and for it to happen as it should. Um, yeah, so I remember that being really challenging. But something that it actually did help was on my helped with the mental part of my brain being busy is I had a few different short one lines written down like my baby and I are working together or I'm powerful. And my sister would she just, I guess, intuitively kind of read one to me, and then I could kind of repeat it. I'd repeat it back to her. And that stopped the busyness in my mind, and I was able just to really focus on those one lines. And yeah, so that was really helpful to have that. And I feel like in hindsight, I probably could have practiced them more so that I could really know them because then I could it would have been almost maybe in my mind because I didn't do that practice. And so I really needed that support of her reading them to me to be able to focus on it, which worked really well anyway. But maybe if I had have um, had that practice more there, it would have been easier to switch my brain off.
Mm.
So yeah, and then we kind of got to a point and I actually got quite warm in the bath because the we had the fire going and um yeah, it's hard work. And so I was getting really hot, but I didn't want to get out of the bath. So my midwife had kind of said, well, maybe if you stand up in between the surges, like it will help you cool down. And they were fanning me in between and then like I'll come back down. So that was helpful. Yeah, and then I don't know whether like people talk about the ring of fire, but I felt like for me that turtling with the head in and out was just felt so challenging for me that when she actually started crowning, it was almost like a relief, even though she was still there. I was like, oh, she hasn't gone back in. Like she's there. And so it felt intense but not painful. It just felt like a relief of maybe a relief of the mind. I don't know. And yeah, then so she was crowning, and then the next surge came through, and her head came out. Um, and then I remember hearing in like some stories, like people talk about the feeling them move and turn. Um, so there was kind of the pause after that surge, and then I felt this like strange sensation. I almost kind of had a bit of a like, oh, what is that kind of moment? And my midwife said, it's okay, your baby's turning, and I could feel her like kicking and turning her body around, which was pretty amazing. Um, yeah, and then the next surge came through, and then she came out, and I pulled her up between my legs, and just with the support from the midwife to make, so she didn't kind of, because I was kind of squatting, I guess. So she just supported to push her through up in front of me, and I grabbed her and put her onto my chest, and yeah, felt immediate all those beautiful hormones and love, and I think I said like it's a baby. And yeah, it was just instantly amazing, and everything was all the hard work and the um yeah, the intensive sensation, it was just gone. And I was just there and with all my loved ones around and just in pure bliss.
Beautiful. I think it's amazing how everything just goes away in that moment. How would you describe how you felt in your body, mind, and soul as you picked up your baby?
Oh, just I feel like that it feels so abstract almost when they're inside you and you know that. And then it's just like, oh, they're here on the outside. It just, and it was also just kind of like, oh, you're here. Like, I know you. Just, yeah, I don't just felt at peace and joy like all at once, kind of, yeah. And also just really so proud of myself that like I did it. Not that I don't think I ever doubted that I could do it, but it was just that like, oh, yes, like here I am. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, which was really just, and having my partner there and yeah, my mom and sister, it was just so special to have all those people around me
And your
as
dad,
well.
did he go back home after he filled the pool for you?
He did go back home. He was actually watching the Matildas, the Australian soccer team, play while he was kind of waiting and getting updates. But he did come back down after she was born and was there for the placenta to be born, and we were all there. And so by that time, it's like 2 in the morning. Yeah, and we're just all sitting around in the lounge room and. I hopped out of the pool quite quickly because I had been quite warm, and because the cord was really short. She kind of her head, I guess, was like on my tummy, like she couldn't really reach my breasts. It was just between my breasts, but like I have quite large breasts, so they were, yeah, it was she was quite low. Yeah, and so we moved onto the couch, and then my midwife, after a little while of skin to skin, I think maybe 15 minutes or so, she just said, it's up to you, but if you want to, we can cut the cord because everything's come across now and it just might be more comfortable with you because it was quite hard because it was so short and to have her towards my breasts and movement wasn't that comfortable. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So my partner cut her cord, and we tried to check in the pool actually, and she was not happy about being moved away from. So I just kind of said, it's fine. We'll just look at whether it's a girl or a boy in a little bit. So once we kind of moved onto the couch and started doing the cord, we had a look, and it was a little girl, which I didn't mind either way, but I really felt so strongly throughout the whole pregnancy that it was a girl. So yeah, for me, I think I would have been surprised if it was a boy. Um, whether seeing it was a girl, I was like, oh yeah, like I knew that. Um, yeah, and so then it took a little while, I think. So we cut the cord, and then the my partner just did a little bit of skin to skin, and the midwife had said like it's up to you, like, but maybe if you just do like a little cough or something, or like sit on the toilet or something like that, like it might just come out. That was after maybe like 25 minutes or so of skin to skin and time. But it just wasn't ready yet. So I came back and just did some skin to skin and tried to do some breastfeeding. Um, and still nothing. So then we moved on to the like is it a birthing stool or like a stooly type thing that you can put the bowl underneath you? And I did some breastfeeding, but it took about an hour and a half for it to be ready to release. So I ended up then she went back with my partner because I was kind of wanting it. I felt like I couldn't quite relax until the placenta was kind of had, like I still have to give birth to the placenta, and there was a little bit of, I knew that it shouldn't be too hard, but I was, also just wanting to have that over so I could just fully relax into being done. So then I went into the bathroom and just sat on the toilet, and just gave a light tug of the cord. So the midwife was talking with me the whole time around like just guiding me, but not, it didn't feel like she was telling me to do anything. It was more just suggestions and quite gentle. Yeah, and then it came out. So it was about an hour and a half. And I was like,
Beautiful.
oh, yeah. Yeah, so my dad was there for that point. So yeah, we were just all in the lounge room, and then I came back and we just relaxed and where I was able to breastfeed. And then my family went home, and my midwives kind of cleaned up and put us to bed at about 5:30 in the morning. And yeah, we were like, and they were like, okay, well, we'll check in with you in the morning. We don't need to do anything like any baby checks or anything like that. We'll just come and see you and yeah, do anything we need. Obviously, they'd done the just observing her and but they didn't actually do anything else because she was healthy and um, yeah, beautiful little baby. So they kind of tucked us into bed and cleaned up and yeah, then we woke up at like I don't know, 10 o'clock, a few hours later, and we were just like, oh, we've got a baby. And they came around and, oh, not they, sorry, just the one midwife then, our first midwife, she came around and was just so relaxed. And yeah, it was very special.
Beautiful. The beauty of home birth and also just like a normal placenta birth. Sometimes it takes a bit of a time and I think it's so important to talk about these variations of normal because in hospital it's really treated as a life and death situation if the placenta hasn't been birthed in 15 minutes or half an hour,
Mm.
then it's like you need to go to theater, you need to take this drug, you need to do this, we need to pull it out. And it's just not the truth. And I just really want women to hear that because something that I've noticed, especially the last maybe half year, a lot of women who've wanted to come on the Natural Birth podcast to share their birth story, um, don't count the placenta as a part of the birth when they think about their natural birth story. It's just the birth of the baby and not the aftermath of birthing the placenta. That's not in their minds. And it sometimes we need, synthetic oxytocin, pitocin, syntocinon, whatever, depending where you are in the world, it's called different things. Sometimes you need more, that happens in birth. Some women do bleed and are symptomatic from it. But just a bleed in itself is not a hemorrhage. It's if you're also symptomatic. It's
Mm.
not, oh, this many mils and now, like, that's actually not the truth. It's about how you handle it. Some women feel really faint and symptomatic after just a few, you know, like 200, 300, not even 500, which is kind of where the mark of like, oh, this is a hemorrhage if you have more than 500 mils. Um, and some can lose up to a liter and actually be like walking around non-symptomatic, breastfeeding their baby, going to the bathroom, feeling no type of way. And so
Mm.
it's very much you have to be holistic as a midwife if you're caring for a woman in birth, not to just jump to, oh, PM says we should give oxytocin prophylactically, but to see a woman and her needs and wants and just to give someone prophylactically syntocinon or synthetic oxytocin, it actually does have effects on mum and I think it's really a disservice for everyone to not talk about that.
Mm.
And so I love that you had 1.5 hours and you had a midwife that was just gently guiding you and giving you options and you followed what felt true to you. And um, if someone's not actively hosting blood, there's not a panic to birth the
Mm.
placenta, is what I want to say. And yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
can,
I wasn't bleeding. I did have a small tear actually, but it didn't need, they checked after the placenta and everything, did a check and didn't need any stitches. It was just a first degree tear kind of on the upper labia. And yeah, they were like, that's all good. You'll just be able to heal natural. Well, I mean, obviously there's a choice around stitches anyway, but they were just like, well, it doesn't need it anyway. Yeah, so that was great. And I was actually just so surprised at, and maybe like I guess all up the labels around like 12-ish hours. But I felt so strong afterwards. Like I was just so surprised that I was like, oh, I feel great. And even just in the days leading up a post, like obviously, I had birthed the babies, and so I was obviously recovering, but I was surprised at just how strong and good I felt. Yeah, and I just think that's so down to being at home and having that support around me, and yeah, just that whole process. Like, yeah, we didn't have to leave home for weeks, and I never had to go to the hospital once. So yeah, just felt so grateful for yeah being able to do that.
Beautiful. So if you had a first-time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby and she really wants to have a natural and empowering birth experience, what advice and pearls of wisdoms would you give to her?
I think um, the part that I'm definitely coming back to, like now being pregnant with my second baby, is just really, that part where my body was intuitively telling me to to move, and the parts where I think my body was sending me messages and my mind was being busy, like just to really listen to your body, and it knows what it needs, and that our mind can get in the way. So just trying as much as you can to tune into what's your body telling you. And that's in birth, but I guess throughout the whole pregnancy. And that was the same with the scan, like just really trying to get rid of the busyness and to just tune into what what does your body, what's your body telling you, what's your baby telling you. Which is not always easy, but yeah, just a, I guess, reminder to really trust in your body and your baby.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your birth story. And good luck having your second. Maybe we'll hear back from you in a year's time or something from that story.
Thank you, Anna. I've listened to your podcast so much, so it's such a privilege to yeah, be on here again. And I'm listening to it nearly every day now on the lead up to my next birth. So it feels really special to be on here and to share. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as The Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.